up with a grandmother who was an Italian farmer. So that's how I got interested in gardening, because she always had every bit of her yard was cultivated with something. And so as a little girl, I always gardened with her, and that's how I learned to garden, and I loved it. So then I always had a garden, and when I thought about what I wanted to do with my life, I also thought about the fact that I was really interested in food and hunger issues, and all the starving babies that you would hear about in Catholic school. And so I sort of combined my interest in growing things with sort of a bit of a social conscience that I had developed in school. And the Isles Community Gardening Program has been running since 1982. We currently have 35 community gardens and 5 school gardens. And it's really, it's a community building activity. There are people who've been gardening in Isles Gardens for 25 years. We don't really look at them as our gardens. We look at them as community gardens that belong to the people who really provide the labor and oversee the work. And our job is really just to facilitate. Our job is to help people learn how to garden if they don't know how, give them advice when their tomatoes rot on the bottom, and help them figure out how to negotiate, again, if they need to get a lease for the land, they need to get access to water from a hydrant, those kinds of things. So we make it easier for people to take advantage of the vacant land that's in the city that's really underutilized and oftentimes is a place where garbage and other unpleasant things collect. The last 10 years we started to see a lot of immigrants coming from Central America and even South America, but primarily Central America. And we continue to have a significant population of African American families that garden on the lots in Trenton. There's one garden here in Trenton now that has a lead gardener from Costa Rica, and they're in that garden. He and his fellow gardeners are there every day. They're out there, they work all day, they cook outdoors, they invite other people to come. I mean, it's a real social hub in the neighborhood, and that is often the case.
I'm coming in the morning with Jose. I start around 4 or 5 hours in the morning. I'm coming afternoon for 2-3 hours. I spend 8 hours in the garden. I spend a lot of time, but I love the garden. I love the garden for one reason. You stay outside, sunshine, you see all the plants, the transformation that the little plant, a big plant, are making the good production. It's nice. All vegetables I bring to the neighbor, I'm taking for my house, but not too much. Tomatoes, example, I go to my house, but not too much. All vegetables I bring to the neighbors. First, it's a community garden. It's the reason, it's for all peoples.
In 1972, I moved to Trenton, where we are now, and this garden was an area that was overgrown with weeds and trees, little small trees, and old abandoned cars, and people used this area to do mechanic work on their cars. In the summer, I couldn't sit in the yard because of all the weeds and the mosquitoes. So I started calling City Hall to get someone to come out and clean. And in 1982, I think it was, we were told by one of the neighbors of Isles. And I contacted Liz, and she came out. And we cleaned the area, and we started a community garden. And that's how it started. And from there, we started growing tomatoes, okra, potatoes, beans, corn, zucchini, until I became inquisitive about whether or not sweet potatoes and peanuts would grow in this area. Right now we have 14 families that's part of this garden for the year coming in. And one lady we have from, I think she's from Guatemala. The others are Afro-Americans and the 4 Bangladesh.
The interesting thing about the gardens is that doesn't really matter to people where they came from or what their ethnic background is. I mean, once people get out and start to garden together, they love doing it. You know, they get exercise, they meet their neighbors, they talk about what's going on in the neighborhood. It's a place for children to hang out with their parents that's outside. A lot of people in the city live in very small apartments. They don't have backyards. They don't have cars to go out to large parks. So the garden really replaces the backyard. It replaces the city open space that they don't have. And, you know, lots of good things go on there. You know, one of my dreams was to have a farm, live on a farm. So I ended up farming in Trenton.